My name is Michael, and we're continuing to go through Romans. Chapter 1, starting in verse 16, going through 17. For I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek. For it is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, but the righteous will live by faith. So, in Paul stating that he is not ashamed of the gospel, this tells us that the gospel is offensive, and many are ashamed of it. In man's total inability to earn God's love and approval because our works are mixed with sin at best and are totally wicked normally. And this flies in the face, so this entirely flies in the face of where the Jewish people were at the time, where they believed that they were able to have righteousness before God by keeping the law. Because, God gave the law, he's do this, do this, do this, this. And yet, they had the appearance of law keeping. And so they thought they were good enough to come to God on their own terms through their own righteousness. And the Greeks, or the pagans, they thought that the flesh, this world, the physical world, was largely evil and was something to be escaped. And so where the Jews stumbled over Jesus telling them that, no, you absolutely suck in every possible way, you are an utter failure and are completely unrighteous and wicked before an all-righteous and holy God. And there is nothing good about you. And to the Greeks, they're like, resurrection? I don't want to come back. I'm trying to get out of here. Because they saw this as like a mistake. And so that's where, it was really offensive to both Jew and Greek. And then we see that the gospel is the power of God unto salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first, meaning God created all his covenants with the Jewish people first. So, starting with Noah, really starting with Adam, and then Noah, and then Abram, and then Isaac, and then Jacob, and again with Moses, and then again with David. So all of the covenants, all of God's promises, all of God's blessings were for the people of Israel. Whether, how they became part of the nation wasn't by blood alone. And yet, it was for all those who were in that people, who had joined themselves to that people. And it wasn't available to anyone who was not a Jew. Because no one who was not a Jew kept the law. Because part of the law is circumcision, which makes you a Jew. And so they had proselytes. People became Jews. You could convert to that, and then you're Jewish. But now it is by faith. And so in the Second London Baptist Confession of Faith, chapter 11, To those whom God effectually calls, he also freely justifies, not by infusing righteousness into them, but by pardoning their sins, and by accounting and accepting their persons as righteous, not for anything wrought in them or done by them, but for Christ's sake alone, not by imputing faith itself, the act of believing, or any other evangelical obedience to them, as their righteousness, but imputing Christ's active obedience unto the whole law in the passive obedience in his death for their whole and sole righteousness, they receiving resting on him and his righteousness by faith, which faith they have not of themselves, it is a gift of God. Faith thus receiving and resting on Christ and his righteousness is the alone instrument of justification, yet is not alone in the person justified, but is ever accompanied with all other saving grace